Everybody, in this video, we're going to look at an introduction to referencing and citation, because even though we've covered what plagiarism is and looking at quoting and paraphrasing in terms of how we can avoid it, I think we also need to at least look at some of the ideas that are connected to referencing and citing. So in this video, I'm going to go through some of those ideas with some areas of what we need to be aware of, and also some practice and some things for you to think about as well, okay, as we go. So to get our brains working and see what we already think about these important issues. So I've got a quiz to start off with. I have 4 questions on the screen. Pause the video if you need to, and just think about each of those questions and try and get some ideas for them. Don't worry if you don't know, just try and, maybe predict what might be the answers, even if you're not sure. Okay, let's go to the next slide where we give some answers. So what's the difference between a citation and a reference? And this is important because sometimes the words are used interchangeably. Especially the word reference, because reference, is used a lot when maybe we should be using other words. But anyway, let's get the definitions clear. So when we use a source in our paragraphs, in our sentences, that is called a citation, okay? So for example, the citation is usually the author and the year of publication. So it could be, say, Smith, 2021. That would be a citation. Now, the reference is the full information of a source at the end of an essay. So remember, every citation you use needs to be at the end of your essay in the reference list. And in the reference list, the information is, well, more detailed. So for example, if the citation, as I said, was a Smith 2021, then the reference at the end would say Smith and have the initials of Smith's name. 2021, it would have the title of the publication. It might have the publisher. It might say where it was published. If it's online, it would say how to access it and have the actual website address. Okay, so they are connected. The citation and the reference are connected, okay? But the citation is just a small form of the reference that you will put at the end. This is important to know, which is sometimes things that students forget, and it's a small thing to overlook. So when you write your reference list, the sources are in alphabetical order, A to Z, okay? So whatever author or organization comes first, begin with A, put that at the top and go through it as you would normally, okay? So why do we have them in essays or assignments, any kind of assignment? Well, to show the reader where the information came from, so the reader can check and, if there are any links to see if the information is true, and if it's academic. To show where the sources can be found. So again, if you've got books, where are they? Which journals did they come from? That kind of thing, where are they located? Also, this is a feature of university writing. You are expected to do this, if you've got a module guide, which will give you an idea of what to include in your assignments, pretty sure it would mention references. And of course, maybe the main one, it's really because without citations and references, you will be guilty of plagiarism, so that might be really the main reason why we use them. And that's fine, obviously. But the idea is there are a variety of reasons why we have citations and references in our work. Okay, what information do you put in a citation? Well, I've already mentioned this, if you remember on the previous slide. So in Harvard referencing, which is the referencing system we're going to look at, you only include the surname, the family name, and the year of the source, okay? If you're using a quote from a source, you would put the page number with the citation. Okay, so you'd have, say, the say Smith brackets 2021, and then a colon, sometimes a semicolon, but I usually use a colon, and then you would have, say, 21 or P21, and that would be the page number. Okay. Now, in a reference entry, now remember, previously I mentioned there is a connection between a citation and a reference. So in the reference, the information is more detailed. And so what you put in the reference depends on the source you're using. It really does. The information you put for a book will be different to the information you put for a website. But usually you'd have the surnames, initials of the author or authors, if there are more than one, and often there is, the year of publication, the titles, places, publisher, if it's online, website address, and the last time you accessed the source. Okay. So I'm not going to give a full list of different things you can reference. I've got some more information on that and more practice on the other course that I have running. But this is just something to be aware of. Okay. Now, what can you reference? Well, you can reference anything that's an information source you can reference. However, obviously we are talking about academic writing, so we want something academic. There we go. So websites, online and paper journals, ebooks, printed books, databases, etc., etc. Okay. The most common things to reference really at university are likely to be online journals, books, ebooks, and websites. Websites might be the most common, I don't know, but they would certainly be up there. Harvard referencing. Well, this is a referencing system. It's very, very common throughout the world in most, say, humanities subjects. So it's probably the most common referencing system it's used. And like all referencing systems, it follows a set structure, as in it's organized in a certain way. And that's good because once you get familiar with it, it doesn't change. Remember, as I said on the previous slide, the different source types include different information. The way you reference a book is different to the way you'd reference something online. And also, this is important, there can be slight variations on Harvard's style. So you can find some institutions or some versions of Harvard where, say, the publisher and the place of publication for a book are in different places. I've seen some versions where the publisher comes first and then the place of publication comes second. However, I've also seen versions where the place comes first and the publisher goes second. Is this a big deal? I mean, it's probably not a big deal because at the end of the day, it's still Harvard. However, you need to make sure that you're using the version that either your organization recommends or your subject prefers, or what you've been recommended to use by your teachers. If you're not sure which one you should be using, which version, find out, because then you need to be sure that you're using the right version. Okay. Let's have a little bit of practice though with Harvard. Now, one of the tricky things can be, especially if you're new to using sources, things to do with the authors. You can have authors with many names. You can have several authors. You can have authors that have their qualifications, and the names can be in a different order sometimes. So how do you know which part of writers' names are important? Let's have a look. Okay, so we've got an example here, Linda Margaret Roberts. Okay, now below that I have 6 sections, 6 questions. Now, can you identify the information that would go in each of those sections? Again, pause this if you need to. Okay, these would be the answers. Okay, so the surname is Roberts, the first name is Linda, the middle name is Margaret. Straightforward, yeah? The initials. Now, the initials are just the first names, not the surname, not the family name, yeah? So the first names are Linda Margaret, so the initials are L.M. The dots are important. I'm going to mention punctuation a little bit later. Now, if you are going to use this author in a citation, then all we need is the surname, Roberts. Yeah. Okay, I know that we would have the year, of course, but in this example, we're just focusing on the names that we need to use. And in the reference list, this is how you would write it. You'd start with the surname, Roberts, comma, and then the initials L dot, M dot. And then you would proceed with the rest of the information that you need for a particular source. Okay, but remember, we're just looking at names in these examples. Okay, let's have some more practice with these. And again, pause the recording and think for yourselves. So there's the authors on the left. We've got 10. Some are similar, some are slightly different, as you can see. Some are arranged differently. So we've got qualifications and things like that. So on the right, I want you to think how you would write each of the authors in a citation, and also how you would write each of the authors in the reference list at the end. Okay. So on the next part, I'm going to look at the answers for these. Let's have a look then. So Arthur Allen Armstrong. So the citation would be Armstrong, just the surname, and the reference list would be written like this: Armstrong, comma, A dot, A dot. The next one is Pangle Lorraine Smith. This is maybe slightly trickier because Smith can be a surname in English. However, here, because the way the name is organized, we understand that Pangle is the surname, okay? And the reference list would look like this: Pangle, comma, L dot, S dot. Okay, and a lot of the time, this is what this practice is for, is to just get you familiar with the way names can be organized. The next one, okay, very similar to number 2. Don't forget the punctuation, you need the dots. Number 4, okay. Number 5, okay. Number 6, well, we've got Martin G. Cole, haven't we? MD, FRCP. So what do we include with that name? Well, simple. Cole is the surname, and Martin G, so MG, are the initials. Number 7, a longer name, Nancy L. Moore Howe. You can find long names on books and journals. PhD as well. Okay, so what's the surname? It's Moore Howe. And L would be the reference list. Dr. Hong Lee, do we need a doctor? No, we don't. We don't need the doctor. We just need the names. That's all we're focused on. So don't worry about the qualifications. We don't need them in your reference list or in your citations. Next one, Rousseau, so JE, similar to the others. And the last one, Weschler, Martin, Adam, PhD Oxon. Again, if you've listened to what I've just said about how we would arrange them and things we would leave out, the surname, Weschler Martin, comma, A dot for the reference. So again, just look at how some of them are organized. Like number 1 seems quite straightforward. Number 2 and 3 and 9, we've got the commas after the surname, so it tells us that. We've also got some with qualifications and, you know, what their particular job is, but we don't need them. All we want are the names. That's all we want. Now, I mentioned punctuation. It is important in referencing. It's small, but important, like lots of things. Small things are important. So let's look at a couple of examples. So Harvard referencing. This is how you would list a book in a reference list. Okay. So what information do we have? This is the information. So the surname, initial, year, title, place, and publisher. Now notice in the example, the punctuation, the comma, the full stop, the year in brackets, the full stop after the title, the colon, those 2 dots between the place of publication and the publisher. And remember, if you're not too sure what this information is, like the place of publication or the publisher, This information is usually in the first couple of pages of a book. So before you actually start reading it, before you get to the contents page, the page before is usually has a page which has all this information on. Also, the publisher is usually listed on the back of the book as well. Another example, online journal. Okay, right. So this is quite detailed, as you can see, more detailed than the book. So if you're going to be using online sources, this is something that you'll need to get familiar with doing. Again, look at the information, look at the punctuation. It might look a bit strange. It probably does if you're new to it, definitely. However, when we break it down, it doesn't need to be so strange. So we've got the author, the initial, the year. Notice we've got 2 authors here. Sometimes you can have 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 authors. It's common. The year, the title. Now, because it's a journal, we have the journal. So we have the article title first, and then the journal name. Okay, so we're saying this is the title, and this is the journal it's in. Now, journals are in volumes. So this is 12, number 4 of 12. The page numbers. Now, notice we've got PP. Now, PP is like saying pages. That's all it is. So it's PP, not PS or PGS. It's PP. So PP 123 to 135, and that means that this article started on page 123 and finished on page 135. That's common with journals, because journals, they kind of continue their page numbers throughout the issues. They don't all start at page 1. Available from. Now here you copy and paste the link that the reader, the marker, can access. And you also need to put the last date you access the article. This is because information can change. Okay, so it's important you put the last date you access the article. Notice that the access date is in square brackets. Square brackets. Okay. So citations. Now, there are different types of citation. There's 2 differences. One is called a non-integral citation, which is the author and the year. Okay, like that, Chang 2019, in brackets. Okay, so non-integral citations are used when we're talking about references in general. So maybe you're making a general point. Now, the integral, it's the same. It's the author and year, but the author is outside the brackets. And this is not more difficult, but this affects the grammar of the sentence. Because like if you say according to Chang 2019 or Chang 2019 believes, you'll see that the integral citation fits grammatically into the sentence. That's important. The non-integral does not have to fit grammatically. The integral, because it's part of the sentence, needs to fit grammatically into it. Okay, so make sure that your sentence structure is clear when you use an integral. So you'd often use phrases like according to, or you might use a reporting verb like Chang believes or thinks or states or argues, that kind of thing. Okay, and we use an integral reference when we're using sources that we think are quite important, essential to our argument. So we make these integral so they can stand out to the reader. Okay, let's have a little go at some citation mistakes. Okay, so what's wrong with these citations? Okay, there's 3. Again, pause, have a think about what is the problem with these citations. They might look fine initially, but I promise there's something wrong with them. Think about what I've said about the different citation types, the ways we write it, the information we need as well. Okay, let's have a look. So according to Arnold, that was 116, the internet is a useful research tool. So we have a quote, useful research tool is the quote. We understand that 16 is the page number, okay? But it should be this. According to Arnold, the year needs to go in the brackets. And the year is always in brackets. So we got here the year 2001 and the page number is 16. You could put P16, that's fine, okay? We don't always need it. The second one, Anne Bilberry 2008 observes. So again, the focus is on the source, not the information about what the source says, the actual source, Anne Bilberry. Do we need all this information? No, we don't need the first name. We don't need to know Anne, just Bilberry and the year in brackets. Okay, so don't put the first names. You don't need them. Okay. And the last one here. So we've got a copy and paste of a web link to show the reader where the information's from. But do we have web links copied and pasted as a citation? The answer is no. You need to put the organization. Okay. Now, let me just make a point here. So the organization is Cancer Research UK. Now, why is there no author? Well, one thing to remember is that some websites, you'll find articles that have no author. And if there's no author, you need to use the name of the organization. Okay. So the person has gone to Cancer Research UK. There's no author, there's no name. So you can't put a name down because there's none there. So the student has copied and pasted the web link. Now you'd have the web link in your reference list, but not in the citation. So you need the organization name and as it is on the screen. So Cancer Research UK is the name of the organization. 2013 is when the article was written. And it should be years with articles online as well, okay? But it's easy to get these things mixed up. It's easy to miss them out. These are small things, but important. So become familiar with referencing. It can be hard at first, okay, but you need to try and learn what goes in the reference list. Get more familiar, get more confident. Remember, the reference list never changes once you've got familiar with it. Wherever you're studying should have its own style guide, or if not, it will be able to recommend style guides to you, which you should follow. And if not, you can easily find a guide online. If you search, say, Harvard referencing, you can find many, many guides, okay? And I do go into more detail with referencing on my other online course. So if you want to check that out, please feel free to. Other than that, I hope this video is useful for you, referencing and citation.